Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and for some, depending on where you are when you are watching this, Happy New Year and welcome to 2026. My name is Kirsty Dignam. It is the 31st of December 2025 in the morning, and I'm here to, well, I don't know. That's the actual truth of it. The original plan for this video, a week or more, probably more, was to look at the energies next year and how to best navigate them, to do what I normally do on a Monday's musings, but expand that. The moment I have agreed in my consciousness and open to the potential of this, so much has changed. Last night at about 2 o'clock, well, this morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning, there was so much information coming through for the year ahead that earlier I could have kicked myself for not writing down or taking notes, for not preparing. But one of the emphases in my own meditation this morning was to recognize where we may lack trust in our own ability to expand and to connect to what we need in each moment, particularly in our need to prepare. Now, that's not to say that I won't look at the energies for the year ahead. I may not. I'm basically winging it as we go along, which feels very relevant. Although this is a 10-year, we are being prepared, even though it's a year ahead, right? We are being prepared to enter the 11-year. We are being encouraged to really raise our vibration. And that does include the angelic beings. So the whole going on a wing and a prayer feels incredibly important, particularly in the first month of January, because although we may feel as if we have solid, grounded foundations of where we're going, we can expect halfway through the month, I will get to the astrological importance of that in a moment, halfway through the month for things to literally go up into the air. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't plan. That doesn't mean that we can't have ambition and inspiration and drive, but to acknowledge where we are creating from this year as we go into the year of the One, the Wheel of Fortune, the Magi, the Fool. It's important to recognize the often underestimated fact that the Magician is creating on a table of judgment. So to really look at where we're creating from, to really look at any views we have of that, particularly when it comes to parts of ourselves we may not like, parts of society we may not like, parts of life we may not like, and our desire to push them to one side, and the restrictive impact that can have on our own sacred co-creation, because actually that's what this year is about. Yes, it is a 1 number, but it's also a 10, so it's recognizing the one within us all. Anyway, I digress, although it does feel quite important to be able to go with the flow throughout the whole year. It's not that we can't make plans, but we must be open to where those plans may need us to go, to turn up and do something different, to have a foundation, of course, if that's what we need to remain grounded and to trust in our own ability, but to recognize in the scheme of co-creation that can change at any moment. This year is about change as well, and one of the first things we're going to be shown over the next 6 months, the first half of the year, is how well we can adapt to change, how well we can be open to change. It's not about flow. Now, the reason I say it's not about flow, astrologically in January we have the full moon in Cancer, we have a new moon in Capricorn, we have a lot of planets, we have a stellium in Capricorn, so a lot of planets in Capricorn at the beginning of the month, which all then go into Aquarius mid-month. So we have all of this grounding, all of this footing, all of this stability, all of these earth signs, you know, Venus and Mars and Mercury, all of these signs in earth, and halfway through the month they get taken into air. So it can feel as if anything that we may have a grasp on, suddenly we haven't. Now, excuse me, that is all preparing us to be able to not only cope with change, but work with it. Why? Well, I've written about this in a blog that's going to come out on Friday, on the 2nd. Why are we being prepared for this? It's really important to trust our ability to expand and hold all potentials, and from there decide upon which one we want to take forward, recognizing they're one and the same. On the 26th of January, Neptune goes into Aries. For the last 14 years, it's been in Pisces. which is why we've had that psychic sludge, right? It's why we've had that looking at the world from a different perspective, everything being turned upside down, Patrick Cutie, the Hanged Man, the awareness and the sensitivity and the intuition and the knowing rising, but also the shadow aspect of that collectively. Well, that's now going to move into Aries, which hasn't been there since, I think it was 1860. I did write the date in the blog. A long time. It hasn't been in Aries for a long time. Now, Aries is a fire sign. Okay, so yes, we have the new year, but the real new year, the spring, obviously we're talking February. And when we talk about the fire horse, that's also with the Chinese New Year, which isn't quite there yet. Before then, we need the whole sky. Basically, we need Neptune, our dreams, to take on a different stance, to go into the more warrior-like energy of Aries. There have been many, myself included, that have almost dredged through some real collective shadow woundings in regards to the psyche and prediction and magic and healing and the feminine and all of these things. That's about to change. When it goes into Aries, I can't help but smile. When it goes into Aries, think how we look at ourselves as leaders. Think how we place ourselves in the greater scheme of things, our co-creations as well. Are we as important as the vision? Do we show that to our bodies, to the channel, to the vessel that's going to deliver anything that we're trying to initiate? January, the view is going to be on that. For the next 6 months, the view is going to be on that. So whilst I will look into the energy, there's going to be an underlying theme of how well we can take care of our bodies, how well we can take care of the very container and the earth that is going to produce these things. How we feel about that. Okay, so with Neptune going into Aries, there's a lot coming through, right? With Neptune going into Aries, it's really important, being in Capricorn in January as well, to focus on one thing. One thing. What do they all have in common? And actually throughout the year, when things can get a little bit overwhelming, because they will, and I'll talk about the energy coming in, but they will get overwhelming. The information, the potential, the insights, the connections, thank you, the connections there are huge. When things get a bit overwhelming, what one thing needs your attention, needs your focus? This morning when I was connecting to the energy, some of the things that I wrote down, and you know, we can have a multifaceted approach to this. We can write down ideas, we can have foundations, we can be open to what else wants to come in. One of the things that I wrote down was, how do we trust our own internal expansion? Where have we perhaps not connected to our highest vibration? What impact has that had on not only the view of ourselves, but the view of the world around us, particularly when it comes to spirituality? So yes, we can expect another large spiritual awakening. This is an ongoing process, right? But it isn't going to be anything that we've seen up until this point, because we haven't been capable of seeing it. There's been a lot of heart expansion. Over the December reset, there's been a lot of things that will never be the same. Now that can be bodily changes, that can be relationships, that can be ways forward. Some people may take things that were once hobbies and turn them into soul missions as we go into 2026. Things are never going to be the same, and it's important, particularly on New Year's Eve, or as we go through that window, that portal into the next year, throughout January really, to reflect and debrief, so that we are not acting from circumstances that our soul has already evolved, giving our body chance to catch up with what our energy already knows, allowing that expansion. The other thing that I've written here is, we will find circles, particularly around the full moon, we will find circles coming back up. So we do have the other energy of the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so we do have that circular energy. We will find things returning to be looked at again. Now, it's not about doing them differently. It's not about doing, you know, this year I've put several things in my planner that have been in my planner for several years, and I can get really caught up in berating myself, or recognize that how I see them now is different. How willing I am to prioritize them is different. How I see myself in them is different. So it's not about doing things differently or doing something else, but perceiving what we're doing from a different, more integrated energy. And that doesn't mean pushing parts aside. One of the things we're going to find next year is a drive almost to not pick sides. It's bigger than that. It's going to be pick dimensions, pick earths, pick energies. Now, I'm not going to get into whether you should or shouldn't do that. That's choice. That's entirely up to the individual. But there are going to be those that are more called to bridge the gaps. The gaps are going to get wider. The divide is going to get wider, because those that are here to bridge that, to walk the realms between the worlds, to as above, so below, as within, so without, bring the spiritual into the everyday life, they're going to be expanded. Okay, our ability to do that needs to be stretched. So whilst you may find certain people wanting to be in certain energies, and that's up to them, you may not be that person. You may find yourself almost torn, like an inner tension between higher energies and lower energies. Focus on the one in the middle, which is yourself. Always bring it back to this present moment. Why is that important? Well, one, our view of dimensions and languages in particular is going to be different throughout the year, but also throughout the next 14 years. This whole Neptune in Aries takes 14 years. So we may find that things need reorganizing and reprioritizing, but we have 14 years to build another cycle. So it's okay, despite how urgent the energy may feel. Two, our view of time itself is about to take a huge overhaul. A huge overhaul. It's going to speed up, or it's going to feel as if it's speeding up. Frequency is increasing. Our ability, you remember, frequency is light. Okay, so the light is increasing, frequency is increasing, and our ability to work with that, to be aware of that, to be part of that, is also increasing. So time is going to increase, and it's about finding the still point in the rush, finding the still point in the external quickening that's happening. For some, many years ago, you may remember having an internal quickening, as if your body was shaking all the time. Well, this is happening externally more over the next 12 months. So finding the stillness within that. From there, we're going to see time as not only a man-made concept, but a co-creative concept. This isn't woohoo. You know, it's the whole theory of relativity, right? So how much time we're willing to spend in presence with something, that's going to define how long something does or doesn't take. Now, I share that because some things can be almost instantaneous into 2026 if we so wish, but be mindful that that can have quite an impact on the body, and allowing a moment of debriefing. This is all going to come in one process. Yeah, intuition, instinct, inspiration, change, debrief, and it's going to be an ongoing process that we're just going to be more and more aware of, and hopefully more respectful of throughout the months. That does mean we're going to see things through a higher vibration, and there's going to be, because of that, a greater level of integration and completion of things that we haven't quite embodied last year. Said it before, say it again. The 9-year wasn't about completion, it was about integration. This year, being the Wheel of Fortune, it's about change. Why? How? Well, whatever we do with things that we've integrated, how we take that forward. It's that that's going to bring the change. So let's look at the energy of this year. Okay, so we have the fire horse year. That doesn't start until February. Fire is a transformational energy of its own right, just by being what it is, which feels really important as we go into 2026. We also have the energy of the horse. For those that have worked with horses or been with horses, you will know that they have this huge heart electromagnetic field, and this ability to sense energies, incredible sensitivity. Imagine that tenfold over the next 12 months, and then see how important it is to care for your body while it goes through those upgrades, because it is upgrades. It is a huge leveling up. which means we may want to pick bits that we like and bits that we don't like. And when I was shown this earlier, I was shown a rainbow. You know, a rainbow doesn't get to pick just the red or just the purple. We have all these multifaceted parts of being human, right? The hues, the colours of who we are. When you're near a horse, if you're not in full integration with that, if you're not in your whole self, they will soon show you where you're not quite being who you are. So will this year. And it's not about huge shifts or changes or massive transformations, but just being present. Those that are around horses, that work with horses, that get to have the honour of being in their presence, will know in that herd mentality, which is so vital this year, that herd mentality, stillness, regulation, that is the transformation that we're looking for now, that balance and that harmony. Even though it's a 1 year, or perhaps because it's a 1 year, as above, so below, as within, so without, how important that is going to be in our own elemental magic, our own emotional awareness over the next 12 months, there are no words for. I can't help but smile. There are no words for. It's going to be incredibly, incredibly important. So I've talked about the divide and I've talked about the bridge. I was watching a film yesterday, National Treasure, and in it there was a scene, it was all about the Knights Templar, which I have a real affinity with anyway, and the Freemasons, which I have a history with, and throughout my family. And in it there was a scene where Nicolas Cage was looking up the Declaration of Independence. Upon that there was an oath. I can't remember the oath, but it was basically along the lines of, if you see something that isn't right and can change that, we have a responsibility to do so. Now, not everyone is going to feel that, and that's okay. It all comes down to choice this year. There's going to be almost two worlds of the one in everything and the one on its own. There is an invitation to bring both of those together, to be the leader of our own life within a co-creative situation. There is going to be that warrior-like energy. There is going to be that calling in many to bridge this gap now. There is, you know, if we were to hide magic and treasure and gifts, we wouldn't do it in the open. We would hide it in everyday situations. It's really, really important that we find that wisdom, that we find that treasure in our lives, in our day-to-day muggle magic, that we bridge that we take an oath to ourselves that anything that isn't right, if we can rectify it, we do so. Now that is linked to the Neptune in Aries energy. For some, for 14 years, there has been a wait, be with the flow, surrender, let things unfold. Those same individuals will be called this year, and the calling will get louder and quicker and more emotionally driven, emotive, to take what they have discovered, that stillness, that patience, that temperance, into situations of conflict and chaos and separation and divide, and be the medicine, be the bridge, heal the gap. To be the national treasures they came here to be. Okay, so the other thing, we've talked about doing things differently and resolutions to be based upon experience. Can you imagine in January if our New Year's resolutions, instead of being what we don't have, were actually built upon foundations of what we have gained, what we have experienced, and how we want to take them further? It would change the game. Okay, so what I'm saying here is not to be toxically grateful, but to recognize what you have done and build upon that, rather than what you haven't. Is going to change the game into 2026, because again, it's that whole magician's table of judgment. Okay, so when we think about the magician card in the tarot, there is, as I've mentioned before, there is a belief that the table that he works on is one of judgment. Okay, so all of the emotions, all the elements are placed upon that judgment. But also he has a snake around his sacral, which can bind, which can really restrict our creative expression and response to a situation because of said judgments. So being very mindful of that, Where are your intentions set from? Are they self-improvement? Are they self-acceptance? Are they expansive? Are they restrictive? Do they trust, or are they constantly trying to understand and prepare? I've talked about the all and one energies. I've talked about planning and being open. So we are still in the old energies, and I've talked about time taking on a new understanding. I've spoke about Aries and Neptune and the January shift with everything being up in the air. The horse year in February, springtime integration, herd mentality. Again, I can't express that enough, even if it feels counterproductive. We are in a 1 year, but we're also in a 10 year. Okay, so we are, think about 10 of Pentacles, 10 of Cups, 10 of Swords, 10 of Wands, completion. Think about sharing. Think about not being overburdened. Think about full circle type energy here. I went to a wonderful networking event the other day, and you know, there's a lot of things that I will do by donation, and that's not for a pat on the back. That's my way of restoring balance where I can, because the truth of the matter is, whether we like it or not, whether we have a narrative behind it, whatever opinions we have on worth and prices, at the moment we are facing an economic crisis in many areas, and that is restricting people being able to get the support that they need. It's out there. That is, or at least the reality that I am seeing. For that reason, it has come to my attention. I'm doing something about it and doing voluntary stuff where and when I can. And I'm sharing this in the network meeting that I went to the other day. And, you know, one of the things shamanically that I've tried to build upon is we are only as healthy as our community. We are only as rich as our community. We are only as evolved as our community. And that's the herd mentality that's going to take us into 2026 and help us integrate not just our own indifferences, but to bring that collective medicine and healing to, well, the collective. Yes, we are individual within the whole. Really recognizing that into 2026. Now, obviously, you get to decide what your community is. And one of the beautiful things with that, when we truly step into the vibration that we are here to work with, co-create with, the underlying foundations, shall we say, of our soul's mission here. Once we do that, we do start to connect to those of like minds, or those that may want to be of that mentality but need the support to feel safe enough to do that, to express that. 2026 is going to see a real emergence of tribe celebrations coming together, new arrivals to tribes, but also a return of tribal figures and families to certain circumstances that we may not have even thought about. You know, you may see collaborations coming together that, well, I say you hadn't expected, but were ready for, shall we say. Okay, so plan and be open. Yeah, time will take on a new understanding. We've talked about that. Something I want to talk about is the whole be in the earth but not of it mentality. There's a real difference between witnessing and disassociation, and we're going to come up against that over the next 6 months. Hopefully by mid-year we would have kind of come to some kind of completion with our own wounding around that, particularly spiritually. And it's a residue left over from this 14-year having to go with the flow type energy. It's still the shadow aspect of how we see spirituality. We are all connected. There is no getting away from that, including to the earth. I was watching all the different celebrations of the new year, of the festive season, and I love how all the religions come together. Underneath them all, I love how all the old religions are still rooted in many of the celebrations, like Christmas trees and holly and ivy and, you know, the lights on the trees and all that kind of thing. There's an amalgamation of beliefs that works. However, being more of the pagan type energy, the shamanic type energy, for me there is a disconnection to the earth that runs through them all. Whether we are celebrating a Christian figure, whether we are celebrating a tree or presents or giving, there needs to be more connection to the earth. And as we go into 2026, that's going to be one of the invitations, not to be in the earth but not of it, but both. to be in what is occurring, and to be able to witness and hold space for that also. It's not about removing ourselves from a situation, but recognizing the importance of our presence within it. We all bring different things to the table, and that's really important to acknowledge as we go into 2026. So I've talked about it's not about picking dimensions or earths. We've talked about fire transformation, being what it is, heart-led expansion, freedom of expression. To look at where we need to our need to understand has limited the beauty of our experiencing. Wisdom and experience is going to take on a whole new level into 2026. We may really see where not only we could add more to the table, where we need to seek less but come forward with what we already know, but to trust that, to acknowledge that actually the further learning comes from experiencing that and sharing that wisdom. At the bottom here I have put some things will never be the same. And that feels like a beautiful place to look at, before we look at the energies into next year, what 2025 was actually about. Because for many, yes, 2026 is going to be about change, but 2025 already had a lot of the work in it, a lot of the shifts in it, and 2026 will be about our ability to receive that change, to embody that change, to integrate that change, to live that change. So let's do a reading to look at what 2025 was all about. To debrief, to draw a line in the sand, to celebrate, to mark the occasion of the turning of the year. If you do anything today with New Year's Eve, I've noticed, I've seen a few posts on Facebook that there are, tonight you can see the seven sisters, the stars, the seven sisters in line with the moon. And you're really going to be able to visualize that. So if you do anything tonight, give yourself a chance to look up at the sky, to give gratitude for what has been, to allow your body to pause, to breathe, to integrate, and to be with the version of yourself you now find yourself to be, rather than trying to change that before you've even accepted and appreciated everything that has occurred. We forget that this time of year is actually a portal. You know, we're very aware of Halloween and spring and the dates, you know, the 11/11 portals and the 12/12 portals, but we're in a portal. Until spring, we're in a portal. We're in a deep wintering space where we are still in the snake energy. There is still that shedding, and shedding, you know, when we talk about the snake energy, it's the beauty way to shed our skin with ease and grace in one movement. And that one movement comes from presence, stillness, being, embodiment, connection to the earth, connection to ourselves. What one thing would you do? What one wish would you make to those stars for yourself in 2025? Not the year ahead. What one thing would you wish for yourself in gratitude of everything that you have experienced? Okay, so 2025. Let us know how you want us to celebrate you. What were you about? What can we take forward as a result? Let's have a soul healing reading. Soul healing, soul reading. Well, we have the Two of Wands at the bottom. And when I look at this card, what I see is our ability to create the world we choose to wish, we choose to live in, we choose to wish for. 2025 was about that. It was about recognizing our power to do so. It was the pause before the necessary changes. Okay, so, yeah. I do want to put that there. And we'll have that there. Okay. So to the side of the soul reading, we have the Eight of Swords. Part of the psychic sludge that came over the 14 years with Neptune in Pisces was really about recognizing where we were imprisoning our own mentality and view of ourselves. Sometimes conveniently, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly, sometimes from a victim mentality, sometimes from a not wanting to have the responsibility of all the changes that needed to happen, sometimes from a need of trust. But it was all about mastering our own mindset and reality in 2025. At the center of the year, we have the King of Pentacles. What abundance, what was abundance to us in 2025? Did we share that? Did we restrict that? Did we create with that? Did we work with that? Did we appreciate that? For some, 2025 was about really recognizing the stability that we have in our life that we may not have given priority to, whether that's our health, our family, our relationships, our work, our home, our connection to the earth, our drive, our action, how comfortable we felt in who we were and the abundance that that could bring, and the impact that that had on our actions. Can we take that forward? Can we take the richness of being our full, authentic self forward? This isn't about approval or likes or follows or recognition even. This is about integrity and the richness that that brings. Ancestrally, 2025 was about acknowledging the gifts that come from the heart. Those true wisdom-based experiences that connect us to something deeper, particularly when we were uncertain, the people that were there, the situations that we could rely on from an emotional level. To go from our heart, our head to our heart in 2025. To learn how to receive, for some, in 2025, myself included, which is why I'm smiling. To trust our actions in the times of the unknown. What came to light in 2025? Well, we have the Four of Cups. The recognition that some things just weren't enough. That some things we were done with. That some things, no matter what angle we looked at them or how we tried to achieve them differently, no longer sustained us. That it was all about opening ourselves up to something new. Not externally. Of course, it will come in external reactions and in external provisions, but to open ourselves up on a heart level, fuller, to expand in order to receive something different. Have we done that? Can we take that forward into 2026? The healing that came through in regards to our own physical body and our connection to the earth is the Six of Wands here. I love this card because this particular character is actually in a wheelchair, so seen as disabled, and yet the healing and triumph and victory that can come from those situations we really didn't think we would be able to navigate, those situations we really felt at a loss, or that we didn't have everything that we needed. Look how far we have come with them. Look how much we have moved forward with them. Can we recognize that within ourselves? Or is it our lack of perception, the experiences that we've gained, the inability to appreciate and celebrate them, that is actually disabling us? In the West, the thing that we needed to almost let go, or rather integrate, was the Six of Pentacles. Balance, harmony. What we give out, we receive. The irony of life, the reciprocity of life, the recognition of our own value. How have we got on with that as we go into 2026? Well, the guidance here as we go over the next 12 months is to take forward any abundance that we have gained from opening our heart and receiving our gifts. any truth that has come from wanting more, and allowing that to guide us forward now, not to restrict us. To recognize that balance and harmony is an ongoing process. As we grow, so too we will seek more. As we give more, so too we will grow. To acknowledge our own mental attitude towards this. To look at where we have expanded the views and perhaps where we may still need to. The encouragement of 2025 is to actually pause as we go through to 2026, to look at the world we find ourselves in, to sense into the one that we want to be part of, and to bridge the difference, starting with ourselves. So, is there anything else with that? Well, I was going to do a prediction into the months ahead as a month by month example of the Monday's musings, but unless we can recognize the importance, I will do it. I will do one word for every month. Unless we can recognize the importance of our own energy and the co-creation within that and our perspective, we are only going to get so far with looking into what the future holds, because we're here to create it. So I will pull a card for every month and give one word for the energy, for several reasons. One, it's very important we start to fine tune and hone our communication. The information coming in is going to be so multifaceted that we're going to get lost otherwise. So to remain streamlined and direct, that is the energy of the magician. It is also important to acknowledge that whatever we discover, we do something about. Now that could be in our own integration or steps forward, but that's where the change comes from. So we receive, we act, we then start anew. The other energy that we have this year is the Fool and the Sun card. We then start anew. We allow the light that has come from anything we've discovered, anything we've acted on, to create joy and transformation and harmony and balance and magic. It doesn't need complicating, it needs remembering from within us all. Okay, so one word, one card, 1 month. I see Hansel and Gretel, I see breadcrumbs. This year is all about, leading us home to who we've always been and who we came here to be. Don't get enticed by overcomplicating things, particularly, well, I was going to say at the beginning of the year, no, don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple, keep it direct, trust your ability to expand and receive what you need in every moment. Okay. 8 of Wands, absolutely. It is a fast-paced year. It is a quick year energetically. Where we find ourselves in alignment with that is going to determine the change that actually happens. Okay, so I was going to say Monday, but it's not. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. That's as far as I can go with the space that I have in front of me, and that feels quite important. Throughout, from now until October, go as far as you can with the space that you have. One of the things I'm writing about for January is to do what we can, or give what we can, Yearahead. Do the best that you can with what you have in front of you, particularly over the first 6 months, because things are going to change at the drop of a hat, the drop of a magician's hat. Things are going to change because it's our ability to cope and adapt with that, to keep on our feet with that. Almost like a boxer type energy then, but to keep on our feet with that, that is going to create the greatest shifts, not in our actions, but how well we believe in ourselves. How well we believe in ourselves. It's that poem that reminds me of those that keep their heads in, I think it's a Kipling poem, I can't remember, but I'll find it and I'll put it in the comments. How well we can be, how emotionally regulated we can be in the chaos that is creation and life. It's that that's going to bring the biggest shifts in our own view of ourselves. So January, we have the Five of Swords. One word. I want one word. I mean, I can look at this card and I see almost like alien-like figures behind her, and she's torn and she's tattered and she's carrying forward, you know, the things that she has gathered and discovered. And there's two swords in the ground here. She's barefoot. She's confused. I say she's confused. She's not confused at all. That's the word that I've given the description of this energy in January. January, despite how it may seem, despite how uncertain things may be, or, you know, particularly Blue Monday, and, you know, we're all that little bit tighter. The purse strings are normally that little bit tighter in January. January, despite the hardship, there's direction. There's clarity, mental clarity, but the one word for January, direction. February, I wanted to say Tuesday, so don't be surprised if this doesn't weave itself into the first week of January as well as the 8 months. Yes, okay, so for the first 8 days of January, be mindful, take a note of any direction you're given. These words that come up, take a note of them in the first 8 days of January, because from now until October, they're going to be the theme. Which is nice, isn't it? We don't have to complicate things. We don't have to look so far ahead. We can be in the present moment and recognize that that's going to have an ongoing impact into the months ahead. We don't have to try so hard. And that's what I'm feeling in February with the Queen of Cups. She's relaxed. She's very alluring. She's very sensual here, but she's very relaxed. And in the cup, there is a beautiful blossoming of a lotus flower. She's very curvaceous. She's showing a bit of thigh here. She's a little bit seductive. These cards are the Unfolding Path Tarot by Athene Noctua. Beautiful, beautiful tarot deck. Absolutely beautiful tarot deck. But yeah, February, very alluring, very seductive, very enticing. My initial reaction to the energy of February was to not try so hard. It's not flow, it's not be. There's a word for February. There isn't a word for February, it's an emotion. Feeling, intuition, thank you, intuition. January, direction. February, intuition. Oh, and it feels wonderful, actually. Wednesday, or it's not Wednesday, but March, we have the Page of Pentacles, and here he's very surprised. Actually, he's very surprised at what he holds in his hand. It's like it was always there, but he wasn't aware of it. Like fruition, that's the word that I hear for March. Finally, things coming into play, which would tie in with the seasons beautifully, but there's a fruition there in March. There's a temptation to get involved in the collective in March. Again, know where you are and what you have to offer first, and then share in March. Now, the reason that I'm almost skimming over, and I can see the skimming of a rock over water, the reason I'm skimming over is it feels quite important for at least the first 3 months of January not to get dragged down into the depths of the collective psyche that is going to entice us, to stay grounded, to stay rooted in what you need to know on a need to know basis for the first few months of the year, to recognize why we may want to understand more, why we may want more, and to acknowledge whether that's ego driven or divinely led. There is a difference. And come March, if we can concentrate on direction that is in front of us, if we can be with our intuition, March time, springtime, we are going to be surprised. We are going to be, I used a word and I've completely forgotten it now, but that fruition. We are going to see things come to fruition. In April, that's inspiring, and that's the word that I want for April, inspiration. We have the Ace of Wands. It doesn't matter what's being offered in April. Is it inspiring? Let that be the guiding energy. Inspiration. And if we can allow just that to be the drive, this is where the sun card aspect of this whole 110 year comes through. Now, the reason I say sun card is because it's 19, which adds up to 10, which rounds down to 1. So this is where that whole sun card, fool-like energy with the 0 comes in. Yes, there is a return to ideas and to inspirations in April, but let it be light. We don't have to bring back all of the wounds and the shadows that have taught us the experience. Allow the experience itself to be the inspiration. Be inspired by ourselves. Keep that light, keep that driven, keep that upright, sovereign, and of the higher frequencies. As we go into this year, we are being prepared for the 11 year. Yes, things are going to be like that. And when we can step into that 11 vibration, we're going to see insights for the next year. Things are really going to unfold in front of us, depending on the patience and the presence we can give them. Which brings me into the January, February, March, April, May type energy with the Knight of Pentacles. Presence. Can we be with what is being offered? Ourselves included. Can we be with the situation? Can we openly receive? Presence. I want to say receptivity, but it isn't. That's going to be almost like a side effect of being present. Presence for May. And it's real heart led. That's where I really feel the energy of the horse coming in as well, because remember, the horse is on the sun card also. So it is that inner child, innocence type energy, but not to be mistaken with naivety. This isn't about naivety. This is about the strength and courage it takes to choose to see something from a more heart expansive energy. Okay, so obviously when that happens, when we open, what happens? Well, the more light we bring into a situation, the more shadow rises, and we have the 9 of Swords. So we go that first 5 months of the year quite balanced, quite in harmony, even though it may not seem that way. Come June, we have the 9 of Swords. Come June, trying to figure things out, trying to make sense of everything is actually what's going to restrict us. So what word would we give for June? It feels like I want to keep coming back to June, so be mindful of that. Be mindful of the need to keep coming back to the desire to understand. Mistrust. Mistrust, deception. There's going to be a lot of mental jumping around in June. Of course, we're in the zodiac of Gemini, so that's going to happen anyway, but there's going to be a lot of mental jumping around in June. There's going to be a lot of it's not insomnia, it's not being able to make space for the dreams that can come from deep sleep and deep rest in June. So all these wonderful things happen up until June, but are we allowing integration? Are we allowing ourselves time for integration? Now, throughout all of these cards that I've done, like life, they can be seen from different sides, and I haven't concentrated on just the energy, but what the guidance is to do about it. So January, yes, of course there's going to be confusion. Yes, of course there's going to be tight purse strings and, doubt and plans that don't always come to fruition. There's going to be mental uncertainty in January, because there is every January, because we force this need for new change in a month when the world isn't ready, when we're actually not ready on a cellular, seasoned, primal core. So there's going to be that inner tension in January, but the word, and that feels important as we come to June. Yes, we can be aware of all of these things, but what one action, remember that one simple focus, what one action can we do about it? That word, that action in January is clarity. Seek clarity. Allow the uncertainty to bring clarity. In February, that word was, my mind's gone blank. What was the word in February? Intuition. Take time. Flow. Be with the seduction of life, the experiencing of life, and allow your inner tuition to come forward from that. In March, yes, we may be surprised at some of the things that we're handed. Yes, we may think, oh, I'm not quite sure if it's ready to take roots and to grow in the way that I would like it to grow. I don't know what to do with this. But ultimately, underneath it all, it's about fruition. It's about planting seeds. It's about allowing things to grow. In May, we have inspiration. Things may be in their beginning stages. We may want more information in May, but the only information that we're being guided to actually really connect to is whether or not it inspires us. Can we trust that for the lightning bolt that comes down through the magician? Can we trust that Heyoka energy, or will we continue to question it and the trickery behind it of our own mind that needs to understand it? In May, presence with what is being offered, presence with our heart, presence with our feelings, presence with our gifts. May, we may find a lot of people, again, taking their hobby into a soul mission. Can we be with how that may be received? Because come June, yeah, there is a need to go back over things. They need to understand things, and it's good, even though it may feel mentally like a mental anguish or a mental deception. It's an opportunity to integrate in June. We're nearly halfway through the year, right? So it's an opportunity to integrate with the solstice in particular. So it feels quite important to maybe do some kind of ceremony with the solstice. In July, we have the Knight of Pentacles. We have all of those inspiring ideas. That thing that popped into our hand that we weren't sure of in March becomes a possession, something we want to protect, something we want to be loyal to, a business. So this character has gone from being shocked to actually quite driven now. Yes, I've planted those seeds. In July, yes, I'm starting to see them grow. Yes, this is what I'm taking forward. It almost looks like she has a CV under her arm, or a record of achievement almost under her arm. The word that I hear is completion. And it feels important to stay with what you know in July, or to return. God, I'm just thinking of some of the dreams I've been having over the last few weeks. Actually, no, they've been dreams that my husband has been having. Be very aware in July in particular, your dreams may relate to other people's, but they may not be the same. Really stand in what's right for you. Return to what inspires you, to what drives you, to what connects you, to what you're proud of, to what you have gained, to what you have achieved. And let that help you reach completion. In August, we have the Six of Cups. It feels really important to take time in August to smell the flowers, to balance the transitions that have happened. It's not integration. It's not completion. And I feel quite rushed because this video will probably be a two-part, because I don't think my computer does more than an hour. So patience in August. Feel that. Trust the timing. It's like a kid in a sweet shop. So much is there. So much potential is there in August. Wanting it all. Nurturing each moment. Having patience. There is time. Enjoy. In September, we have growth. That is the word that I want for September. It doesn't matter how you see how these things have happened. It doesn't matter what you've put into it. It doesn't matter the endurance, the hard work, the stages, the outcome. Growth. Have you grown? Has the situation grown? Has what you offer grown? Is growth still available? Growth is the key word in September. Now I hear harvest. What is harvest if not growth? What are we harvesting? What have we gained? Remember, with the sunflower in particular, whatever you plant is going to come from what you have grown. September is a real good opportunity to look at what we're going to take forward. But first, recognizing what has grown. October, we have the Seven of Wands, and there is a real driven, it's very Kali-like energy. I'm not surprised because it's October. We're preparing for the release. We're preparing for the transformation. Throughout the year, yes, there's changes, but we may feel as if nothing big has really initiated itself from within until October, because that's when we step into the more death-like energy as we're going into Scorpio season, as we're in Halloween season. We are embodying the warrior we came here to be. We have taken the Two of Wands from 2025, and we're going to use that to elevate us forward. Everything we've been waiting for the year before in October starts to really come forward with more passion and drive. And this character I actually see as the horse now. We become, cliche as it sounds, that transformation, and that's the word I want to add for October. Yes, it can be a bit defensive, it can be a bit aggressive if we're not careful, particularly if we feel like we're being attacked. But ultimately, it's about transformation. Where is that transformation within us? When we stand in that, 9 times out of 10, that's the energy that actually just needed to take us forward throughout the whole year. Okay, so I'm going to put them to one side because it feels like come October there's a big shift. There's a big shift as we look into the last 2 months. And it feels as if November and December hasn't yet been decided. Now, obviously, all energy hasn't been decided completely until we add our part to it. There are some things that are written, but how they play out depends on our own reaction to them. But November and December, it really feels as if there's a void there at the moment. Okay. November, December. We have the King of Wands at the bottom of the pack. November, December. We have the Knight of Wands for November. So we've gone from that transformative energy, and depending on how we take that forward now, that will bring forward, we have the Queen of Wands in December. Remember the energy in February? How we react in November is going to determine just how physically embodied the intuition we had in February will be. So November, reactions. No, it feels almost as if I'm sweeping over that energy in November. Take time with November, even though it feels as if it wants to go quite fast. Recognition in November, but again, that doesn't feel the right word. Communication. November, communication. Look at what is being actually said. Look at what is being given to you. Look at what you're doing with it in the expression that you're giving it. Communication is key in November. Again, November, December is a very void-like energy, so you may find things changing quite quickly. You may find yourself changing your mind in November, but recognize everything that happens, every step that you take, every shift that you make is part of creating what November is going to be about. It's communication with the earth. It's co-communication with yourself, your higher self, and the situations around you. You are creating, seeing communication for the creation that it is, the soul's expression that it is in November. In December, we take that intuition that we gained in February forward. It becomes more than just a seduction. The ideas that we received in February, they become more than just an insight or something that we'd like to play with or be allured by. This becomes a forthright. We have the King of Wands underneath, a forthright embodiment. That was the word that first came to me for December. Embodiment of the feminine that's now necessary to take forward that creative spiritual power into the 11th year. Throughout the whole year, how we can be with our bodies and our emotions and our intuition and our feminine, particularly by February, that's going to dictate the powerful energy and frequency that can come through us. But we're going to be made very clear of that by the end of the year. Even though things will never be the same from 2025, they will never be the same at the end of this year either. How we communicate and embody the changes will be what defines how we see them, how we create them, and the impact that they have, not only on us, but the world around us. Have the most magical 2025 celebrations into 2026. And I will see you as normal on Monday the 5th of January with the Monday's Musings. Take care, celebrate you. Don't forget to look up at the Seven Sisters if you get chance to really look at the Seven Sisters. Are all about time and love and connection and wisdom. Take a moment, breathe, raise a glass to yourself, debrief, and allow the transitions that need to occur to do so in each and every second. See you next year. Take care.